Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, a model that was a breakthrough for Patek Philippe and which can, by the conventions of 2025, be described as neo-vintage, a child of the 90s. This Patek Philippe 5050J was made through the early 2000s. Never a common piece. It was a milestone for Patek Philippe as one of, if not its first, series production wristwatch to include both a retrograde and a perpetual calendar. And you could see in its dial the format that would later come back in officer's watch style on the 5059 and the subsequent 5159. It's a quaint piece in a lot of ways. Hard to believe this is what a watch looked like when I was 10 years old. Sigma dial, lateral hallmarks, 35.5 millimeters in diameter. The timepiece is compact and easy to wear on any wrist. You could see in profile it's a rather slender timepiece, not ultra thin, though 11.2 millimeters thick. It is 45.3 lug-to-lug with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. One of the most exciting things about neo-vintage is that in many cases the market hasn't discovered them yet, and also for our lady collectors who are mechanical watch purists, these watches at the time were not being built in oversized cases. So this is a watch that is evocative and nostalgic for both him and for her, as a man or a woman can wear this with great style. My wrist is 16 centimeters circumference, and though this is a very stiff strap and I'm pulling it tight, but the lugs, as you could see clearly, are not near the edge of my wrist. Taking a look at the cuff shot, it's got a relatively thin profile and a concave bezel, so it will slip easily underneath the dress cuff. Don't go by the shot over the top again. I'm pulling this stiff, brand new strap very tightly. Go by this angle. Like I said, the strap and even the buckle, far newer than the watch. The watch comes with an extract from the archives that confirms this was made in 1994, 1 year after production commenced. Not all of these have display case backs. This one does have a display case back on it. You can see the lateral hallmarking, and although it's been worn down a bit by age, you can see that we do have the pre-August 1st, 1995 hallmark to confirm the era of the model. We've got a strap that is large, rectangular scale, symmetrical scale, alligator leather, dark brown, gloss finish. You could see it as a folded edge, calfskin on the bottom, no crimping, no gouging. And then we've got a buckle that features post-August 1st, 1995 hallmarks, as you can see right there, the little dog head. So you got the head of the woman, which is this oval form right here, and then on the buckle you have this little diamond-shaped figure with the head of a dog. And that is the post-August 1st, 1995 hallmark. So you can see there is a considerably newer buckle on the watch. That is not to say the buckle is new, as 18 karat gold contains quite a bit of copper, and over time you will get these fantastic patina patterns if the material is not regularly abraded by contact with clothes or wrists. And as you can see, we've got this lovely pattern, sometimes called the Boscoriale effect, as the gold itself ages untouched. It's a friction fit clasp, it snaps together, and it has the Calatrava Cross, the logo of the manufacturer, on it. You can see that the case is relatively simple. Blended integrated Calatrava-style lugs. We've got the Calatrava Cross, and when I say Calatrava-style lugs, I mean the Calatrava dress watches, not the Calatrava Cross, but we have that logo right there. You can see pusher adjusters for correcting the calendar. This is a very traditional Grand Levier program wheel style perpetual calendar, albeit with a few distinctions in that the displays are mostly apertures with a retrograde date across the top of the dial. We have solid gold hands and indices. We've got a Sigma dial. This was started in the early 70s, called the a priori marks, properly speaking, named after a Swiss precious metal trade federation that wanted watchmakers to explicitly note when hands, indices, numerals, or even dials themselves were gold on a watch. And so Patek and Vacheron probably persisted with this Sigma-like symbol longer than anyone else. And so in 1994, when this watch was made, it was still on there. While the dial is described in the archive extract as silver opaline, I think you can see quite plainly that it's more of an off-white today. A very subtle fade, adding both darkness and a little bit of color, both of which I love. Yes, it's automatic, and it tells you so. It's also a bit of an unconventional look for a Patek Perpetual calendar, as we've got running center seconds. So it is a perpetual calendar, which means the moon phase only needs to be corrected once every 122 years, and the calendar itself only needs to be corrected in the year 2100, which, due to a quirk of the Gregorian calendar, will not be a leap year. When the retrograde hand reaches 31, it jumps back, hence retrograde, retour en vol. Taking a look at the case back, caliber 315 is the base. The predecessor of the 324 had a slower beat rate, still center rotor automatic winding, but 6 beats per second rather than 8, so it's 3 hertz rather than 4 hertz. You could see back then Geneva seal. In fact, it is quite quaint to look at a Patek Philippe that's Geneva sealed, and yet even on my camera you could probably see the little milling marks on the bevels. This was considered autologerie back in 1994, and no excuse is made. They thought it was quite an innovation to be displaying the movement underneath a sapphire caseback. They had no idea that a generation later people would buy personal microscopes to examine every flaw on a movement. So this is what high horology movement looked like back in the early 1990s. So we've got the beat rate of 21,600 vibrations per hour, 5-position adjustment, which is the high horology and chronometer standard, Geneva hallmark, a imprimatur of quality for a movement made in the city or canton of Geneva that meets all the attendant standards, 31 jewels. You can see that we've got a large solarized mainspring barrel. We have Côte de Genève stripes beautifully laid and perfectly aligned across the bridges. We do have those sort of hybrid hand mechanical bevels. And then we've got engine turning on the base plate, polished screw heads. We have engine turning on the rotor center as well as the click wheel too, and then satination on the wheels. All of this water resistant to 30 meters back in the day, but I would not test the theory. The 45-hour power reserve beats away through the balance, which is a Gyromax style, Patek Philippe's innovation from the early 1950s that allows the timing of the watch to be set using those Pac-Man-shaped eccentric screws on the balance. Those are adjusted in pairs to adjust the timing very finely. It also instills an extra measure of shock resistance, and you can see Patek Philippe's longtime use of KIF shock protection rather than its more common and mass-market Inca block rival. So there is lots to love here. One feature it does not have that a modern watch would have would be hacking seconds, but that's about it. In every other regard, what a lovely watch. One of my favorite Pateks of the 90s, and again, neo-vintage for him and for her. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.